Welcome into Crossing the Aisle. I'm Lindsey.
I'm Shaun. Is that loud
Shaun.
enough? Right?
Yeah, that was loud
Yeah.
enough. Is it?
Trying to get it set up. I was making sure
Yeah.
my mic was okay. When we get in here, we always have to we have 3 minutes to make sure everything's going. So it's kind of like running around with your head on fire. So
Yeah,
anyway,
because it's always like something's been moved or something's not
yeah.
in the right place, or there's always something. So,
It's
Shaun,
always
how's your morning been?
it has been busy, and it will be busier when I leave here. So it's been a crazy day, but not as busy, Lindsey, as apparently the Obama's relationship,
Ooh,
or not busy.
are
As
we
you
going
would say.
there right away?
Well, I thought it was a pretty good way to open this up. I know the audience generally leans conservative and loves anything bad about the Obamas. So we
He's
might
your
as well.
favorite, though, right?
He is, but we might as well get into it. So Lindsey had mentioned this that they may be getting divorced, and this has been going on for months. I remember I was talking about it with Clay, and
Yeah,
there was
I guess back in October, I guess the rumors started to circulate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess when she didn't show up for President Carter's funeral and then also for the inauguration, Trump's inauguration, it seems like, everybody was thinking there must be trouble in paradise.
Yeah, especially the Trump thing. I kind of understood because I've heard just hate for Trump, but the Carter thing was weird because it's
It was.
yeah. I mean, he's like a whether obviously his presidency was not very successful, but he was a beloved figure in his later years by pretty much people of both parties. So it was strange that she did not appear for that. And there was all these rumors floating around that she had that Barack was having an affair with Jennifer Aniston. I don't know if that's true or not, but
That seems so unlikely to me. That seems like an unlikely pair, but I guess
you
you
never
never know.
I mean,
I mean, so do we.
Yeah, so who knows? Yeah, so that's what they said, and then you had watched the podcast, right?
Yeah, she was on a podcast and it came up and she said, "I'm not divorcing Barack. I'm choosing myself," which to me sounds like there's a divorce in the near future.
I'm choosing myself.
I'm choosing myself. But she talked
did she
about
get her hair done and lose weight or something? That's usually the signs.
no, it almost seems like she's less put together these days. Like I think that she wants to be able to not have on a fancy dress and wear all the makeup. She just wants to be able to live her life and not be constantly looked at as a public figure and be able to go shopping or go to the grocery store. So she's talking about maybe moving to another country for a little while and just be able to get away from it all, which I can understand. Your job doesn't end as president or first lady once you leave the White House. Of course, you always are going to be needing Secret Service or needing protection and security guards. And I always feel sorry for the kids when they have young kids in the White House or even teenage kids because they just don't seem to get to live a very normal life, obviously.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point. We don't see a lot of teenagers in the White House these days. We saw Barron Trump was very young. Trump's first term,
and he was off limits.
He was off limits.
I think Melania did a good job protecting him for the most part.
The Bush twins were out of the house by the time I think
George W. Bush was. I couldn't remember.
I remember. Well, there was this thing about Jenna Bush and her college. She started. We're about the same age, and I remember she had started college or something.
And she was partying, or they would get pictures of her drinking or at a bar, and it was like, of course, they go on attack with these young people, which I always hate that. I hate it when any politician's child goes, under all of this scrutiny just because of what their parent does.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. Like I think if you get into public service, I think anything's fair game with you.
But leave the kids alone.
Yeah, but leave the kids alone. I mean, and it's happened no matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican.
Oh, Chelsea had it the worst.
Chelsea had it. I mean, Saturday Night Live.
People were awful to her.
Still is. I was really young, maybe 13 or so when that happened, and it was a horrible, horrible skit that that made fun of the way she she was at braces then. She was a kid. It was terrible.
And she's not the most attractive female, but I mean that.
But she has gotten better with age, I think.
But it had to be hard for her parents to hear all of that.
She's like 13 at the time. It was pretty terrible. So, and then like I said, the Bush twins got it for at least. Well, Barbara Bush was kind of more quiet than Jenna was, and Jenna got it for doing what normal early 20s people do, party. And
she found her voice in this past presidential election.
Yeah, did she endorse hires?
She endorsed Kamala.
I couldn't remember. I thought maybe she had, but and then of course Barron, he was really, like you said, he was off limits, so that didn't really happen. But I think also that goes to Michelle did not want Barack to run for president. That's right. Just did not want him to do it. Was really against it. She was okay, I think, with him running for the Senate, That was about it.
She said that in the podcast.
Yeah.
I was completely against it. I had to be talked into it by my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Her brother actually had a deep conversation with her explaining why she should support him in his bid for presidency.
That's exactly right. And so it was a big controversy, I think, through his whole administration, the whole 8 years he was in office, between them two about that. And I think she was hoping for more of like a lax post presidency, which is never going to be, like you said, like never going to be a lax. They're going to follow them forever. I think Barack doesn't care. I think he kind of likes it.
And especially when I think he played a big part in some of the behind the scenes maneuvering during this last presidency, the last 4 years.
Yeah, actually, there's a book that Lindsey's referencing called Fight that we've been, she's done. I'm not. Apparently, I'm the lazier one. And,
no, you actually have another full-time job that you do.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because I'm kind of to that part of the book where it talks about how much Barack got involved behind the scenes to prevent a Kamala Harris nomination.
Mm-hmm.
Like he did
not want it.
He didn't want that.
He did not believe she could win.
You know what interesting about their relationship, Obama and Michelle, though, there was a part that I read that I hit this. I was walking the dog listening to it this morning on Audible. And so Barack, and I remember this, had made a comment once Harris was elected to California Attorney General, where he said, well, she's the best looking Attorney General in the country, something like that.
And Michelle was really upset about that.
Yeah, she didn't really like that. And so like apparently, and she didn't like how slow Barack was to walk it back. And I was like, this is a typical relationship, you know.
But Kamala, and it talks about this later on, and I can't remember the exact details. It's been so long since I finished the book, Shaun. but Kamala made a point of referencing that, like, she was proud of the fact that he said that, almost to rub it in Michelle's face. And so I think there was some hostility between the two of those two women.
Yeah, I just think it was just an offhand remark. It wasn't that. I mean, so what? And I don't know why that caused all that conflict, but apparently it did, and that started the Obamas and the Harris people not liking each other way back then. So because of that, and then Barack had to call Kamala Harris, this like in 2013, and apologize for the remark and all that kind of stuff. So just, ticky tacky crap, I say, but that knocks some stuff up. So, but also, Michelle, she had an experience during the White House with her kids that she was really nervous for their safety. Speaking about, her hate for Donald Trump is based, in her book, she talks about this, is based on the birther stuff, the birth certificate stuff that Trump was pushing back in those days. And so that's where she holds a lot of resentment towards him. And so that's what I thought, okay, maybe they shouldn't go to the inauguration because of that. But coupled with the Jimmy Carter thing, it was,
it was odd.
Yeah.
It was definitely odd. So I think that we may be seeing something along the lines of a divorce or separation in the near future. At least it sounds and looks that way.
Yeah. I mean, especially she said she's going to Europe. Is that where she's going to go?
I believe so.
She's going to go hang out in Europe and
without him.
Without him.
Well, I mean, the comment was, no one knows if he's going to go with her or not, which basically means he's not going.
He's going to stay with Jennifer.
Or Kamala, who knows?
I don't think he's going Kamala. She's yesterday's news. And that when we get to the book, and I just listened to a passage when I was driving here. I do want to get into when I finish it about the Tim Walz stuff, because that's the most fun part about that book.
It's so not fun.
You were right during that whole stuff. He is nuts.
He's nuts.
That guy is nuts. I mean,
so Shaun liked Tim Walz.
I thought he was funny initially, right?
And initially Shaun thought, oh, this is a great pick. This man looks like a sweet little grandpa. He's a former coach. He's all-American, all-American guy. And so I asked Shaun, like, well, where does he stand on some of these issues that I care deeply about? And he's like, oh, I'm not sure. I said, well, let me look it up. And then I was floored. And I remember I texted him. I was like, no, you will not support this man. He's horrible. And I think the rest of the administration, all the Democrat Party, I think, feels that way now.
Yeah, it seems like there's a pretty big Tim Walz hate on the left. I think I didn't realize how much he was jockeying for the job. And there's a passage in the book when he talks about how he kind of like undercut Josh Shapiro.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize this guy was such a,
he wanted it,
like backstabbing kind of dude. He didn't see him like, again, sweet old grandpa. And the only thing that got him the nod was really that comment he made about the weird thing that went viral.
The weird, he called JD Vance weird. Mm-hmm. And that kind of just took off.
Yeah.
And so it got a lot of publicity for Kamala and her run. That's shortly after Biden had backed out, and I guess they had decided to go with her. I really don't think they had any other choice because of the time frame.
Yeah, that didn't seem like they did, but they it is interesting though how all that backstory works. And once I finish the book, we will give you guys a full book report on it. It's pretty fascinating. It's from the perspective of both campaigns and what went
It's
on.
very non-partisan. I mean, it does not take
Yeah,
either side, but
it doesn't.
it gives a lot of details throughout the whole entire, starting with the debate. It starts with the debate between Biden and Trump, and it plays out the entire election from behind the scenes, and it's actually quite fascinating.
The one thing I will say, that little spoiler of the one part of the book that is my favorite, was Trump's reaction during the Biden-Trump debate. And he said, he's like, I thought he was messed up before, and he's like, but I kind of just was saying that. He's like, then I started debating him. I was like, holy s,
He
he's
really
really
is.
effed up. And like, he used those words, he's really effed up. And then he said, I don't know what to do. In his head, he was like, should I attack him? But then people are going to feel bad for him because he's really effed up.
Yeah.
And it was really
I think
funny.
that's why we saw such a more calm Trump during that debate, because I think he was kind of caught off guard at how bad Biden was doing, and he really didn't know, which way do I go? Do I attack him even harder, or do I, kind of go easy on him, because he is definitely not all with it
No,
here.
that was pretty hysterical, I thought. But but we'll get into that once I finish the book, and I
What I
promise
thought was funny is, after the debate, that Biden was getting all this negative publicity, which was really good for Trump.
Mm-hmm.
But Trump didn't like it, because he said, "They're not talking about me. I
Yeah,
need
they're
them
not
to talk
talking about
about
me.
me."
That man loves himself. He really does.
Which sounds just like him, It sounds just like
He's
something he
like,
would say.
they're talking bad about my opponent, but that means they're not talking about me. So therefore, there's a problem. So that's an interesting
Right.
thing. But anyway, but yeah, so I guess we'll see whether there's a split in the royal couple or not.
I mean, because they've been like the prince and princess, or king and queen of the Democratic Party now for quite some
About
time.
17 years. Yeah. For a long
Even,
time.
even when not in office, they've been, like we said, running a lot of things behind the scenes.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we'll see. We'll see. Well, we're going to take our first commercial break. And when we come back, Shaun, maybe we can talk about, I touched on it a little bit in that last segment when you had to leave yesterday, but the immigration issue, and what Trump has decided he wants to do about some of that,
Yeah.
and some of these jobs where he has realized that we do need immigrants here in the United States. So stay with us. We will be right back here on WIAB 103.9. Welcome back to Crossing the Aisle, where politics meets passion. Literally.
You like saying that, don't
I know,
you?
I do like saying that. I like that little catchphrase. Shaun, I made a joke on my Facebook, one of my Facebook posts about telling Stephen O'Neill that he might get some comments about our heated discussion at his restaurant a few weeks ago.
Which is the Manship, who's a sponsor as well.
Yes, he is a station sponsor. So y'all go visit the Manship.
We do.
We
quite a
frequent
bit.
there quite a bit.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Stephen.
Yeah.
But we had been butting heads on immigration. So tell us where you stand on that issue.
Well, I mean, that's complex, right? So yeah. So anyway, what we were going to get into is the Trump has come out with kind of a change in position somewhat in terms of he's floating a plan for undocumented farm and hotel workers to work legally in the U.S. And what Lindsey's talking about, well, our debate was, I don't think I'm for deporting people that are criminals and that sort of thing. Obviously, I don't see how like that makes any sense that we're not going to deport people that are criminals. What I'm not for is deporting people that are working on farms and doing those kinds of jobs. And I think a statistic I read is that like 50% of U.S. farm labor is undocumented immigrants. And so I have a hard time thinking that we should just be focused on our efforts on deporting these people that are working and there are jobs that we need done. We obviously are at a net population rate, and that's a negative birth rate, excuse me. And there are many Republican governors that actually signed letters saying that, we need these folks to work because we don't have the people to do that. So it's not like they're taking people's jobs and all that rhetoric. And so that's was our argument. She was saying, well, you can tell your position. I'm sorry.
Well, the first thing that they did by coming into this country, the first thing they did in our country was break the law.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's wrong to want to make people follow the law. And I don't think that's a racist thing. I don't think that's a bigoted thing. I think if you should follow the law if you live in America. And if the first act once you come into our country is breaking the law, then I kind of have a problem with that. Of course, I do understand what you're saying. There are people who just want to make a better life for their families. They want to be able to provide for their families. They want to be able to find a job, and they want to live in a free country, obviously. Let's see. We got somebody calling in. Let's see what they have to say. Hey, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello. You're on the air.
Yes. Hey, so I just want to comment on what he was saying. Everybody keeps conflating illegal and legal aliens. We have no problems whatsoever for people who come here legally. It's the illegals. I don't know why they won't ever use that word.
Yeah. I pretty much agree with you. I think if you come here illegally, you need to do something to make that right.
Yeah, if you want to come here legally, great. Come here, work, do whatever. Make yourselves great. Integrate into our society, and all's well. So I just want to say that. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks. You too. Yeah, and so that's kind of what our debate was. And Shaun's point of view was, of course, that if they're paying taxes and they're not a criminal, they're not causing any problems, they're not hurting anyone, and they're working, providing for their families, we should make some sort of process where they can become legal. And so I guess Trump was listening in on our conversation, because a few days later,
he agreed with me.
He agreed with us, I think. Let's see, someone else is
He
calling.
agreed with me, actually, I think is what he said. Yeah.
Hello, you're on the air.
Hey there. This is Timothy.
Hey.
I think that you should be here legally. My wife came here legally. She's been a citizen for 22 years, and you should come here legally, and you should assimilate to the American life. If you want to change it from what we are now, then why did you come over here?
Yeah, I agree that, with making, Trump had signed an executive order that everyone would speak English. And I completely agree with that. If you want to come to our country, then you should learn our language.
Well, and I don't care if you talk English everywhere you are, but I shouldn't have to change my language to communicate with somebody at a Walmart.
Yeah.
We live here. Assimilate to our way.
Yeah, I agree.
Talk to you.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
Well, I think, here's where I differ with, I don't differ in the terms of, do I think you should come here legally. I mean, I think that's for sure. Do I think, though, that the U.S. government should be spending time and resources deporting people that are working on farms? I don't. And apparently the president of the United States doesn't seem to think that, because he's kind of changing course on what he was saying. And what he says here is, he suggested at a cabinet meeting Thursday that undocumented people working on farms and hotels would be allowed to leave the country and return as legal workers if their employers vouch for them. Okay, that's all I've been asking for. I think that's a fair resolution to a lot of this. If if you're gainfully employed, and then you could come back as maybe a guest worker program or whatever you want to call it, that seems to be a reasonable solution. Now, if you want to say, like, okay, we shouldn't have all these illegal people just running around and we don't know who they are, fine, I understand that as well. But there's just the fact of the matter is, we do have a lot of people here that are undocumented, legal, whatever terminology you want to use.
For the last 4 years, the border's been wide open.
Yeah, right. There are tons. And there's no question that Biden administration completely failed on that. I'm not arguing that either. But we had these people here before then. And, we've always had them for a very long time. So I think, whatever.
We got another call come in. Hey there, you're on the air. Hello.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, yeah, you shouldn't come here illegally. But our process for, like, assimilation and just the whole process of becoming legal is a long, arduous process.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
I mean, Shaun's dad actually went through that process. Like, he became a legal citizen.
And it costs so much money to, like, it costs, I forgot how much they said. It's like in the tens of thousands of dollars. Like, it shouldn't take that much to become a United States
Well,
citizen.
and that was one of the points that Shaun was making as well when we were having this debate.
Immigration was the word I was trying to think of. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but he was saying, it's not that easy to just come here legally.
Yeah, it's not. Like, I had a friend or a friend of a friend. She was going through the immigration process, and I mean, this goes back to the government being too big, but she would be given immigration date, and when she drove to New Orleans to go to the immigration date, they rescheduled it, so she would have to drive back to Mississippi and wait again. And it was just like, and that happened maybe like 2 or 3 times, and it's just like, what? Like, where's the
Yeah, they don't make it easy. They definitely don't make it easy.
Yeah, they don't make it easy, and that's the only part that, I mean.
And I believe that's why we have so many here that are still on work visas that aren't actually legal, because the process is so lengthy and time consuming and difficult.
Yeah, it is, and that was the only thing I wanted to put in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, thanks. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, Shaun, so I'm guessing you're in favor of this program. Do you think it's just for farms and hotels?
I mean, I think he's saying that right now because obviously farm labor is really important in terms of how much of the U.S. farm labor are undocumented or illegal aliens.
I guess that's not a job AI can do quite yet.
Yeah, it's not. And there's just, it's quite, 50% is the number that I've seen. It goes 40, 50, 60%, something in between those, numbers. But so, I mean, that's just a reality that we have to look at. Like, we got rid of all these farm workers. What are we going to do? Like, and it sounds harsh a little bit, like, oh God, we just want to keep them here as farm laborers. I mean, but that's just the reality of the situation. They're working in those jobs. I saw an interview with some farmers that were saying that, we've tried to get Americans to come here and work, and we can't do that. Now, the counter argument to that would be, well, you're not paying them enough to do it. So you can pay these folks. And that always goes into my thing about when, we focus on deporting people that are working, which again, this is different than I'm going to talk about than the criminals and the MS-13 people and whatever. Like, that's fine. Get rid of them. Totally down with that. But you have all these companies, U.S. companies, that are allowing undocumented immigrants to come into this country. I used to actually have to prosecute some of them when I was at the AG's office for fraudulent use of identity is the way they do it. And these companies know what's going on. They know the deal, but they're doing it anyway. And we don't do anything to them. We're just like the poor guy, Mexican dude that's trying to like make a living. We go after him, but the company.
Right. What about the big companies
that is checking? I put in quotes that he's legal and knows that they see this dude, that Mexican dude comes up and they said, "Oh, your name is Bob Smith, huh?" With your okay, Bob.
Right.
Like, it's obviously Roberto over there. It's not Bob Smith. I mean, and like they know that, and like so we don't do anything about that whatsoever. Never have. and we have to some certain small degree, but we put the focus on the workers, the poor people, and that's a big issue to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that the process is difficult, and there are not many American workers that want to do those jobs. And my very least favorite member of Congress, Miss Crockett, made that comment recently that they're not going back to working in the fields. Her people, I guess, as in Black people. So now it's just got to be the immigrants who are less than
Yeah,
that are
that
going
was
to
a
do
little
that job.
ridiculous statement that she made, which again hurts the farm laborers by saying things like, "Hey, you guys be the slaves." Like, what kind of crap is that? Yeah, I agree with that. That's stupid. It was really stupid. But that's my point. So, like, yeah, this is a real problem that we have, and we just can't ship them all back. That's just not gonna. And even the president of the United States has recognized that, because you know why? The farm industry, the hotel industry have come to him and said, "Hey, Mr. President, this is a problem we got. What do you tend to resolve it?" And
he's got a background in hotel industry, obviously.
Yeah,
So
obviously, sure.
that's something that I'm sure he's going to take into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we are up against our next break, but stay with us, and we'll be right back here on WIB. And we're back here on WIAB, crossing the aisle with Shaun and Lindsey. Shaun, you just saw some breaking news come across your iPad over there.
Yeah, we got some new news that I heard Clay was touching on some of this morning regarding Michael Reinwald and Jeffrey Walker, I believe it was. They had been indicted for aggravated assault. Two Capitol Police officers, indicted for aggravated assault that occurred in 2022. And I think he may have touched on this, but it's just breaking now by WLBT that Stephen Randolph Frederick and Michael Reinwald, Michael Reinwald with the ag assault indictment that he's got currently pending, have been indicted for the a killing of a man named Jalen Lewis, which I've heard a great deal about this case. That happened in 2022. And
it was a traffic stop, right?
Yeah, I believe it's a traffic stop, and I'll get into some of the facts that I remember off the top of my head from since happened in 2022, and they were just indicted by Hinds County Grand Jury in March, and posted a $100,000 bond on April the 10th, which was 5 days ago. So this is new information. It's Officer Michael Reinwald's got 2 indictments for aggravated assault and now manslaughter, and Stephen Frederick, who is the same Stephen Frederick that I believe had that DUI that was dismissed.
Yeah, and it says that in this article by WLBT. It says that Frederick resigned from the Capitol Police in 2023 after he was arrested for driving under the influence in a state vehicle in Covington County.
Because he wrecked the state vehicle, if I remember.
I believe so. And he was later found not guilty because the trooper who stopped him failed to appear in court. And there were some rumors that Brian Bailey was involved in that, allegedly.
Because he's the boyfriend of Brian Bailey's daughter, if I'm not.
Yes, maybe husband now. I can't remember. Yeah, something like that.
And he and I think Jerry Mitchell wrote on articles about that. There's indications that maybe, I don't know, just allegedly Brian Bailey was involved in that. I don't know if that's true or not.
Helping get him out of that trouble.
Right. Those were the implications they made with Mr. Frederick. I believe he's no longer a Capitol Police officer. Michael Reinwald, I think, is on leave.
Yeah, he's been on leave for a while.
For the aggravated assault. And so here we go. But I want to make this clear, though. This is so there's 2 indictments out there on Capitol Police officers that are from Hinds County, but not the district attorney's office. They're from the attorney general's office. Who
was initially representing them, correct?
In a civil suit. That's
okay. In something different.
That's different, right? Yeah. The AG now has, I believe, purview over all officer involved shootings. I think they passed that law a few years ago. So the Hinds County District Attorney's Office, who has definitely indicted police officers like Anthony Fox in the past for different things, but this is an officer involved shooting, which is now the Attorney General's office is the authority that reviews all of those. And here they decided to indict Mr. Reinwald and Mr. Frederick for something that occurred in 2022, which is a little suspect to me about that.
There's no body cam footage of the incident, but Michael Reinwald disputes the allegations and says that the evidence in this case will establish, among other things, that the interior of the rental car occupied by the people who were shot was covered with gunshot residue. In other words, either one of those people fired the gun inside their vehicle. So I guess they were acting in self-defense, as what they would consider self-defense. As officers, they felt like they were being shot at, so they shot back.
Yeah, and I would concur with Officer Reinwald there. What I've heard, and I'm not going to reveal my sources on this, of course, but discussing these 2 different cases that he's involved in, and that Walker and Frederick are definitely instances of self-defense. Where I believe in this case with the killing of Jalen Lewis, I think he tried to ram him, if my memory is right on that. And he fired a shot, or he had a gun in the car, whatever it was. It seems pretty clear to me that the shooting was justified. Now, there is some implications that since Jeffrey Walker, who's subject of the other indictment that Reinwald's in, the ag assault indictment, was indicted on federal charges, that the AG's office just kind of tacked off that, is the word that I'm getting, that this is kind of a political thing, and decided to indict him by the 2 of them for the ag assault. And now you see this. So both cases seem like junk to me. I would say I don't, if I would not, my time as a prosecutor, I would not prosecute these guys for this at all. Like, this is kind of crazy to me that they would be indicted for what seems pretty clear that they were acting in the course and scope of their authority to do so in defense of themselves. Right. So I don't understand how this happened, or why the Attorney General has now decided to go on a vendetta against the Capitol Police officers.
It's really strange. It's really strange that she would be after these officers for this, because to me it seems kind of obvious that they were just doing their job.
Yeah, and I mean, the problem for them, I think, Lindsey, is that just having as much experience in Hinds County as I do, they may get convicted just because they're police officers. Unfortunately, like we saw with Anthony Fox, he was clearly not guilty.
You think they would try to pull that again?
Well, I mean, this is not the DA's office; this is the AG's office doing this.
Yeah.
So, I think there's just a natural sentiment in Hinds County against police officers, and that to me puts them in danger. I think the best course of action for them, if I were their lawyers, would be to file a motion for change of venue and try to get this out of Hinds County. I think any other county in the state is probably going to acquit these guys. I know it's hard; that's a high standard to meet with the motion change for venue. I've dealt with that a few times on the prosecution end, and but you could say due to the publicity, due to the community's reaction to and feelings against Capitol Police in general, there's been a lot of
about expanding the CCID.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of the mayor has hated on them. There's been a lot of hate in the community about Capitol Police or negative stuff that's untrue.
Right.
That's out there. So I would think that a motion for change of venue would be appropriate in these instances, because I don't think they're going to get a fair trial in Hinds County. I would want, if I was defending them, I'd want to get this somewhere else. I think you put this in any other county, that they're going to say okay, these are justified. Just by looking from based on what I know about both of those cases, it doesn't seem like this is anything that should have ever gotten indicted.
Seems like Frederick was a whole lot more guilty of that incident that he was involved in.
The DUI thing,
the DUI and the wreck, and who he gets off scot-free than these two guys were when they were just on the scene doing their job.
Right. Yeah. I think so. I mean, he obviously, there was an issue there. He was drinking and then got in that wreck. And then the trooper didn't show up to the court date. But that's neither here nor there in relation to what his culpability is here, which I don't think he or Weinwald have any. I think they were acting properly in the course and scope of their duty. And same thing for Reinwald and Walker in the ag assault case. This is, to me, just patently unfair as you can get, and unfair to them, where again, I can't state this enough. I think just putting them in front of a Hinds County jury with the negative implications about Capitol Police puts them at a strategic disadvantage and inability to get a fair trial, where they would get one in a different county. And I think that they would be more successful there. Let's say you put this in Rankin County or Madison County or heck, Smith County. I mean, they're going to acquit these guys in 2 seconds. But Hinds County, just because of the negative stuff about Capitol Police out there, it's really, really, in my mind, very unfair.
And not only, I mean, I know Michael Reinwald's a white police officer, which
and I think Frederick is as well. Yeah.
So what about, Shaun, when they are on leave for something like this, an investigation, are they being paid or how?
I'm not sure how that works.
I wonder if they are even able to make money to support their families, or what happens in that instance. I don't know, but it seems like that would be completely unfair if you suspended them without pay. Well, there's an investigation.
Up to DPS. That's up to their I don't know what their policy is on that. It would be up to, I would imagine they're suspended. We know whether they're getting paid or not. I would be unsure about. If I was them though, right now, I'd be more focused on what my defense is going to be, and how I'm going to get this case out of Hinds County. I can't say that enough, because it's just unfair to them.
Oh, it does say on administrative leave without pay. Okay. Interesting.
So I mean, there you go. And yeah, so that would be my message to those guys. How do you get this out of there? And it's interesting also because the Attorney General's office is post Jim Hood has not been known for prosecuting much of anything. And to me, that they're going on a war against the police. And I'm saying that, I'm not just saying that as, I'm saying that someone who used to work there. I'm also saying this to someone that speaks to plenty of former Attorney General's employees that all discuss this issue, that this is a office that doesn't like to prosecute people, and that they choose to attack 3 police officers in this instance of an organization that is, in my opinion, has saved Jackson for real, doing their job. They're doing a hard job with a lot of bad people out there and a lot of crime.
They are.
And they're, sometimes they, guess what? They don't want to get killed. So they do crazy stuff like shoot back. That's so crazy. Because
they could have been killed had they not. I mean, if there truly was gun residue in the car and someone inside that car had shot at them, then they were literally acting not only as a police officer doing their job, but also in self-defense, saving their own life.
Yeah, I mean, and the and as far as I know, MBI, which is the Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, is the one who investigates all these. I think they cleared them in both these instances. I know they did in the first one pretty much. I'm not sure about this one, but I think they did. I mean, these are both cases that occurred 3 years ago. And that's the next question, Lindsey, I'd ask is why now?
Why now? Why this is September of 22.
Why? I mean, you had enough time to review this. You don't, why are you going to indict somebody, 3 years later or whatever it is? on something like that. It just sounds it stinks of politics. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, it does, and I just wonder who it is, behind the scenes
Yeah.
that's got it out for these guys and why. Like, what would be the reason?
Well, and also, the Attorney General's office is now the prosecutors for the CCID and the CCID court, so they're handling that. And so they're interconnected with Capitol Police handling their cases. And then now that goes back to something I said back to Anthony Fox a couple years ago. Yeah, I say this from the perspective of working in a district attorney's office for a very long time. You don't indict your own cops. You just do not do that. You let an outside agency do that. And that is not something you do. You give that to the feds or somebody else. But like when I was an assistant DA in Hinds County, I'm not indicting somebody from JPD because I got to work with these guys all the time. So I'm obviously going to be biased. I'm right there. I'm admitting my bias. You can't indict people and then work with them. It's just not going to work. You've got to refer that out to another agency. And it seems to me the AG is working with Capitol Police now. So I think the feds even reviewed some of this before too and cleared these guys.
It looks like, NBI investigated for 17 months.
Right. Okay. And cleared them.
And then at that point, Attorney General had NBI investigate the file for 17 months before entering an appearance as Ryan Walt's lawyer. So she was involved as defending him initially
in a civil case.
But it had to do with the same incident.
Right. Yeah, of course. It was rising on the same incident, but it was a civil case. It wasn't a criminal case.
Okay.
So which is a problem. There we go. That I saw that on Kingfisher's site, but that's a different kind of case. And that they were defending them in that context because the Attorney General defends state employees or in those capacities. But that is it's a different kind of action.
Okay.
So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
The U.S. Judge Johnson dismissed the Department of Public Safety from the lawsuit in April of 24. So it looked like they had all just cleared it all.
Right.
And then all of a sudden these charges coming out of the AG's office. It's just very strange. I just wonder what's going on there.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know. And I wish these guys good luck, these cops good luck, because it just seems like they're getting a shaft on this one. So.
Yeah, and it doesn't make anybody want to run out and become a cop.
No, it does not. Absolutely not.
All right, well, we are up against our last break, but y'all stay with us and we will be right back here. WIB 103.9, Crossing the Aisle. And we're back here on Crossing the Aisle. Shaun, we're going to miss you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right. You got Representative Fred Shanks from Brandon going to come on and talk special session stuff I don't really want to talk about. So
I can't ever get him to talk legislative stuff with me. I always want to turn on the live stream and rewatch what went down and what played out in the legislature each day. And he's like, I'd rather do anything but that.
Because I don't care what Bobby McGillicuddy from like the 4th district of Tishomingo County or wherever it is.
These things are important, Shaun.
And talking about, some, bill they're going to, I don't want to listen to it. It's the same yuck stuff I hate.
We'll have Fred here tomorrow.
But I like Fred. Fred's a great guy. So
I mean, he definitely got those squatted vehicles banned. I saw where they were arresting people for that.
At least that's a useful bill. Like, unless you have a squatted truck, at least there was a purpose behind it. All this other stuff that they pass up there, it's so annoying to me, especially when they extol about how like we're about limited government, but they love passing all these bills and staying in session forever because they love government.
Well, tomorrow I will get to do my favorite thing and break down everything that happened in the legislative session and what could happen.
Which was nothing,
in
right?
A special session.
They didn't do it. They couldn't get a budget.
We banned DEI. We did do that.
Oh, I mean, that'll change our lives forever. So
it can. It can definitely change some lives, Shaun.
Yeah. So I mean, so everybody listen to Fred and Lindsey, and like I said, Fred's a great guy. He's got some really good insight about the legislature, and Lindsey does too, and they can enjoy together.
the legislation talk that I love so much.
Yes, I will unfortunately miss that.
But you'll be back on Thursday.
Yep. I'll be here Thursday, and we can talk about something like the Obamas getting divorced. It's been more interesting.
Or maybe if you finish your book by then, we can.
Is Elon on drugs? Like that's one we haven't got to.
Not on drugs.
The Elon on drugs story is pretty funny. Like apparently Elon likes to take a lot of mushrooms and ecstasy.
See, he'd rather talk tariffs than legislation, which is just makes my head want to explode. But we have like 10 seconds. Tell them where they can find us, Shaun.
Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and we will see you all later on.
Yep. Be here tomorrow with Representative Shanks and then back Thursday with Shaun. Have a good one.